Hey, everybody, welcome back to Unfiltered Joy. Today, I have a beautiful guest with me, Miss Brielle Brasil. Say hey, Brielle.
Hello. Hi, everyone. So nice to be on here. Thanks for having me.
So good to have you. She's coming to us straight from the DR, Dominican Republic. So I love always seeing all your beautiful ocean vibes, ocean pictures. Like tune into Brielle's Instagram all day. It's so good. So, the jam on Unfiltered Joy is to really just create conversation around themes and things that we're seeing in our own lives, in our clients' lives, in the world, all that kind of stuff. Everything goes, anything goes. So if anything pops up in your heart that you just feel like you need to share today, because it's a download, we'll go in that direction. But I like to start things off. We'll put all of your info and stuff in the show notes so people can find you and all that.
Sure.
But talking about, what do you do for a living and feels kind of boring. So instead, I love to open up with this question. And if you feel called to answer, it's a fill in the blank question. So the statement is, my soul came here to
show the way.
Ooh.
It's just what came through.
Yes.
Show the way to live, show the way to love.
Ooh, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. I was walking on the beach this morning. I'm taking a little time traveling with my partner, and we're here in Huntington Beach, California, and I got a download. And so I think it's meant for you and I, because I've watched the way that over the past, I think we've known each other for maybe 4 years, maybe a little bit longer.
Several years, yeah.
Around that time. And I've just seen how open you've been in your space of growth and healing, and how your essence has evolved in so many ways, shapes, and forms. But you're so open in your relationship with your husband, in your relationship with your business, in your relationship with your body and your breath and your energy and all those things. And I was chatting with somebody else the other day, and they had made the comment, I just don't know what makes me happy. I don't know how to find happiness. And I thought, wow, I want to talk to Brielle about this concept of finding your happiness. And maybe it's not even that, but what's your take on, when I see you and your husband traveling and experiencing the world and just living day-to-day life, doing living your best lives and doing all these things, and you're not afraid to show the other the whole spectrum of things. But when I hear people say, I just don't even know what makes me happy, my heart goes oh, we need to talk about this.
Yeah. Oh, this is such a good one. And I definitely have things come up in my life, relationships with family, with clients, with friends, and a constant theme I see in terms of happiness is just this externalization of it. What makes me happy? Looking outside ourselves to find happiness. And I think that's where a lot of disappointment and a lot of heartbreak and maybe expectations that we think of, if I just had this thing, whether it's money or whether it's a certain relationship or a certain house, or lived in this place, and we externalize our happiness. And I think that's so common in today's society that we live in, to look for things outside of us to make us happy. But it's never going to bring for me, it never has. It's never brought sustainable happiness, because maybe I'll get the thing, maybe I'll get, a really great month in my business, or, when I found my husband. Yes, that is sustainable love that we have, but it could never be the reason for my happiness. The external thing could never be the reason for my happiness, because we can't externalize it. For me personally, my true happiness has come through my healing journey. The more that I've been able to work through my trauma, let go of past mistakes, forgive myself, forgive others, accept myself as I am, accept my body as it is, accept my journey as it is, accept others as they are. without trying to fix or change or manipulate, or if I could just puzzle and fit pieces together correctly without trying to do any of those things, which are all just trauma responses. But the more that I can move into acceptance and forgiveness and compassion, that's for me in my healing journey where I found lasting happiness, sustainable happiness, not the instant gratification kind where, yes, I had a really big month in my business. This feels amazing. But then next month, if I don't have that same type of income and it declines, can I still be happy with that? And I can now. I totally can now. That was something I had to work towards as well, that sustainable happiness. I couldn't let the outside thing be the thing that brought me happiness. The joy had to come from within. It had to come from my healing journey.
I love that you use the word joy. You know, that's like my favorite spot in the world to play.
Yeah.
And I've even shifted my relationship to joy and what that means in my life. It no longer is just this emotion that hangs out on the wavelength of emotions, you know, that frequency that we see, that chart that we often see of like, this one's here and this one's here and everything in between, is actually become an acronym in my life for the journey of you. Like joy is truly becoming like the journey of you. And that is actually an all-inclusive word. It's not a one size fits all fireworks only at the Magic Kingdom moment. It is arms around everything that I am, everything that I've been, and everything that I'm becoming. And when we can shift our relationship to joy, joy is actually so special and so sacred because it's an internal experience that only requires you. It really is. And happiness, I heard someone say this either on a podcast or in a book, and I wish I could remember who it is, but that's okay. And they said, happiness is what is felt inside of us when life is happening. Like happiness is what's happening. So I love that you brought out the fact that it is turning everything external. That's happiness. I was walking on the beach this morning and I felt that sunshine. And I miss it a lot because I live in Ohio. And so we're like, just like literally soaking it all to take it with me. And in that moment, I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful way to describe that. Happiness is when you see that sunshine and you're walking on the beach and you can hear the waves and the collection of senses is like so great, but it's still something that's outside of me. Now, I feel like joy is the essence of the feeling that's been collected that you get to harness at any time, at any place when you choose to, right? Like it's the bank within your body that is constantly collecting. And when the sun goes down and you're back in Ohio and you're staring at snow and you're wondering why you live there, you have to be
you can still cultivate it.
You can cultivate your joy. Yes.
Totally. Right.
So what are some ways that you have over the past couple of years, how have you cultivated this relationship around acceptance so that you can call on this space and place to create this life that you love?
Totally. That's a great question. It's been such a journey, and I've been through a lot of healing in my life over the past 5 years, especially. Acceptance has been a journey in and of itself. Acceptance of myself, acceptance of others. I would say the hardest for me was actually acceptance of others. Because I wanted to externalize, again, not looking within. As a protection mechanism, it was easier to go, well, if this person would just act this way, or if they would just be able to talk about their emotions a little bit more, to feel this a little bit more, if I could just fix them to be how I needed them to be, then I could accept them. So for me, but it was an externalization of not fully accepting myself within, and not fully accepting myself, like all parts of me, right? Because there's all these parts and all these shadows and all these wounds and all these experiences that are kind of more on the darker side of things, where it's easier, human nature, to accept the parts that are your strengths, the parts that other people maybe celebrate in you, the parts that are externally celebrated that maybe you receive validation on, and maybe that validation feels good. So the journey of acceptance has been about peeling back the layers of myself and finding acceptance for the things that felt unlovable or felt unacceptable from others, and therefore from myself. Because it used to be that I needed that external acceptance from others on all parts of me in order to find it from within. But once that shifted and I did the inner work and worked on the trauma resolution and the inner child that needed so much tender love and care and support and acceptance. And again, this is a big process. This wasn't happening overnight. This was happening over a couple of years of my life, where more and more I was able to move into acceptance. I was able to forgive myself. I was able to start loving the parts of myself that I used to hate, that maybe other people didn't understand. Where I no longer needed other people to understand, because all that really mattered was the love and the nurturance I could give those parts, and the acceptance I could give those parts. Yeah. And then from that place of true acceptance within myself, it became easier to start seeing other people's inner child and other people's wounded parts that were just hurting and wanting love and wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard and wanting to be understood, which could help me have compassion and empathy and move into acceptance for people as the way that they are.
Thank you for sharing that, all of that. And really, I mean, acceptance is it's a huge part of the healing process. And I think it's easy for a lot of folks to say, like, I accept myself, but not really believe, like you said, accepting the parts that are easy to accept, but not taking it 10 layers deeper and accepting all of your parts, and knowing that there's not good parts and bad parts. There's just all parts.
Totally.
And hugging all the parts and loving all the parts and giving those parts of you attention.
Yeah.
Because I think of kind of like all these little spirits inside of me, like those little toys that you'd play with as a kid, those little people. I think they're actually called little people. I don't know.
Polly Pockets or something.
Big Polly Pockets. Yeah, that's a good. All these little Polly Pockets inside my body, just walking around, fighting for my attention, craving my attention. Totally. And we get to that certain point where one of them just throws a temper tantrum, and it's like, how did you start to recognize? How did you allow yourself to start recognizing that there were all these parts of you craving your attention? How did you start to notice that?
I'd say, like, through starting the journey and starting to work with like coaches myself and other mentors, and like learning about what is parts work and what is that. And honestly, through doing some trauma resolution work myself with a trauma coach, really began the inner child work, the deep inner child work, and understanding that when I was externalizing things, whether I was externalizing for happiness or whether I was externalizing for validation or I was externalizing for acceptance, like trying to get something from other people, it was actually just a wounded part of me trying to get a need met that was unmet as a child. So it was really my inner child, my one wounded part of my inner child, acting out in a moment, trying to get something that was never met from her childhood, because there were still holes and gaps and wounds that were being exposed because there were re-triggering moments, mostly with family, I'll be honest, right? But
Yeah.
also with friendships sometimes too. But those open wounds were getting triggered because I was in a place of being ready and doing the work to start healing them, and seeing the trigger as, this is a wounded part. This is part of me that needs some attention, that needs some care, that needs some love from me, not from somebody else. I thought it was from somebody else. I thought it was, from my mom or, dad or sister or whomever, but it was really from me. I got to reparent that part. But I would say largely it was through working with mentors and having people that, I was getting support with, helping that process.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Just really having support through that process is key. And also, once I understood what was happening within my system from working with coaches and mentors, then I think a really big part for me was going to a very uncomfortable space, which was spending quiet time by myself.
Yeah.
I remember one day I literally just got a sleeping bag out. This is going to sound so strange to a lot of people, but this is so healing. I got a sleeping bag out, and it was like a camping sleeping bag, right? So it's literally like a cocoon. It's got a hoodie on it. It's really,
nice.
really snuggly, like a little warm. And I got in it in my apartment, and I laid on the floor and I faced a blank wall. And I just laid there, and I laid there for probably 3 hours. And I had just allowed whatever emotions to drop in, whatever thoughts to just move through, not to sit there and ponder, why am I thinking that? Like really criticizing, just going like, oh, I just thought that. I just thought that. I just thought that. Just being really gentle with the thoughts, and then allowing the thoughts to drive that emotion to just come. And before I knew it, I was crying, and not trying to overanalyze it, just go, wow, I'm crying. Okay, I'm crying. Okay. Then I was laughing for a little while, and just now I'm just laughing. Yeah. So just being by yourself in stillness, silence.
100%. Yeah.
So important.
Yeah, I would say that's where a lot of the integration and embodiment of healing has happened for me. While a lot of it started in sessions with mentors, and where I've learned about things and I've learned about parts of myself, and the healing journey and process has begun with coaches, then I'm able to go to that next level where I really integrate that healing and embody that healing, where I'm able to sit with those parts in silence, just like you said, and tune into what they're saying, what they're communicating with me, what they need, what need is missing from them. And then how do I intrinsically and internally give that to them, So it happens on both levels. It happens, with co-regulation with another person that's, trained to hold space for this. And it happens with self-regulation. How do I now self-regulate myself? Which for a lot of us as children, we weren't taught how to do that, right? So it might feel really uncomfortable to go try to sit by yourself and try to soothe yourself through that process of emotions, because maybe that wasn't something modeled to us as children. But when we create a safe container with somebody else to do it, we're more likely to go than be able to do it on our own as well, and learn the tools of how to do it on our own, which is really, we come back to the topic of joy or happiness, of like, the deeper we can go, for me, the deeper I can go into all spectrums of emotions, that is why I'm able to experience a sustainable happiness and joy within me as well, is because I don't avoid or run from those things anymore. I don't avoid looking at those parts of me anymore. I embrace and I lean in. And yes, sometimes it's uncomfortable, of course, but on the other side of that discomfort is growth and healing and true sustainable happiness.
That's so good. That's so good. I also really want to point out your point about externalizing and kind of the whole thing that you said about, saying, well, if they would just call me, if they would just love me, if they would just, and really pushing it out and pushing it out and pushing it out. I think that's a really beautiful thing to point out to folks, that if you're noticing that specifically happening, where it's almost like the blame game, where can I toss it? Where can I toss it? It's clearly it's not me. I'm good over here. But
Right.
if they would just take care of me
Yeah.
instead of I got me. I don't love what's happened. I don't love that they're not calling me. I wish they would, but I'm not in control of anyone or anything outside of myself. So how can I make myself feel safe and loved and seen and heard and all the things? How can I give that to myself? Because I can't rely on the things outside of me to always cooperate the way that I'd like to see it play out, right?
No, never, never. We're really only in control of one thing, and that's how we're responding and we're reacting to life and to what's going on in our internal worlds. How are our responses towards it? And that's it.
One of the most healing, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but again, it comes back to a lot of us don't know how to respond to the difficulty in life and other people not being the way that we need them to be. And so we don't know to go within because we don't know how to, because we don't have the blueprint or the model for it.
Yes. Yes. I think that's one of the things that I try to explain to people with the word coach, because I call myself a life coach. So a lot of times people are, what's a life coach? And I'm like, think about the football coach. Think about a football coach, right? The football coach is on the sidelines and he's got a playbook. He's got a blueprint. He's ran the plays likely himself or with other players many a times. And sometimes it's a touchdown and sometimes it's a fumble and sometimes it's because every single player is uniquely their own and has their own unique gifts and talents and all the things, just like humans do. And so coaches just have a playbook that is going to help navigate this emotional journey that we're all on. Because if you've never played a game before, no matter if it's football or life, life is the game.
Right. Totally.
If you've never played that kind of game with those kind of skills before, you don't even know how to run the play for the first time. You don't know how to get on the practice field. You don't even know how to lace up the shoes. Right. And
love
so
that analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love being able to allow folks to just say, if you're externalizing, that's a good cue to go, oh yeah. Remember, Brielle taught me that I can actually just reach out and go like, where's the playbook? Anybody got a playbook? No, two people right here that got playbooks. So reach out if you need if you want to run some new plays, right? And the other thing is I realized one of the most healing parts for me in my own journey was when I noticed that I was externalizing. When I finally got to a space where I could claim responsibility for participating in that relationship or noticing that, whoa, that's actually within me. What's going on inside of me? I'm going to take responsibility for this. Even if there's things happening out there that I don't like, I'm going to take responsibility for how I'm feeling. I'm going to take responsibility for what's next. And the cool thing is when we start to notice that this is happening and we take responsibility rather than tossing it out on someone else, this is where empowerment comes in. Right? Yeah. And now you're in the driver's seat.
Yeah. And I was going to even take it a step further, taking responsibility for what's ours and our side of the street and our emotions, yet not taking responsibility for what's not ours and other people's emotions or other people's difficulties or struggles, or not making that about us, not making other people's journey to happiness our responsibility.
Ooh,
Letting go.
that's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. That makes me think about that for a minute. Yeah, like this is what's mine, and noticing this is what's theirs, and I'm deciding to feed into it. I'm deciding to make their stuff mine. I'm deciding to make their stuff about me, their bad day, their hard day, their exhaustion, their projection,
their
their
struggle,
all
their
of that, like
projection, all of
about
that. Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And that'll rob you of your happiness. Because
Yeah.
it has for me. I've been
Yeah.
there with, close relatives where I just wanted so bad for them to be happy. I wanted so bad to be able to fix their pain or their situation or whatever they were uncomfortable with. And I had to come again to this place of learning through the mistakes, of acceptance of their journey and what that looks like. And it's not going to look like mine. And not everybody's going to be on a healing path or one that looks the same way as mine does. And the more that I can let go of that, and again, just take responsibility for my end of the street, take responsibility for my emotions that comes up in a relationship, communicate where that's due and that's necessary, have the courageous conversation, and let go where it's not. Let go where, and be in a balance of give and receive, and let go of what's not yours. Because taking on somebody else's, this is a trauma response, again, something we do. We all want to connect as human beings. Our connection brings us happiness. Connection brings us joy. And that's one of our basic core emotional needs. We want to connect. And a lot of people connect through their wounding.
Yeah.
A lot of people connect through their wounding. And sometimes when we are light and love and happiness, and that's represented from us, other people that aren't quite there or quite ready for that might be threatened by that and might try to pull us into their wounding because it's what's known and it's what's comfortable and it's what's safe for them. But to stay in our true happiness, we can't go down that path of making that wounding about us.
That's so good, Brielle. I'm going to share something that I've never shared before because I feel like it's applicable and I'm no longer embarrassed, because I was really embarrassed about this. Previous to, I was in a relationship, in a friendship with someone, and didn't realize until the relationship broke up. We went through a breakup, and it was more like a ghostedness. It was to give an example, it was like we would talk on Instagram DM or voice memo or all the things multiple times a day for weeks at a time. So this went on for months and months and months of just like someone I considered such a close friend. And then all of a sudden, ghosted, cut off, just nothing. And so for a while, I just made it about me, was sad about it, and then tried to push it out. This person's being like this and this person's being like this and all that blame game. And when I noticed that that was not what was happening, what was actually happening is that I was the person who was hurt by something totally unrelated to our friendship. And all of our conversations were around the hurtness that we experienced from another external thing.
Yeah.
Right. So all our relationship was built on was blaming and laying all the crap and gossiping and just all this nastiness, all this toxic energy was around that. And so finally I reached out and said, let's have a chat about our relationship. I love that you use the phrase, have courageous conversations. I want to talk about that in a minute. Because basically that's what I said. I finally went, again, here we go back to personal responsibility. Okay, what do I get to do to move on or to move forward or to heal this relationship? And without getting committed to an outcome, what I needed to do, regardless of the outcome, was have the conversation. And so I said, like, let's jump on the phone. And I just took responsibility. I just said, hey, I don't know if this is what's going on, but I think that I brought you down a rabbit hole with me. And then you decided that you no longer wanted to be down that toxic hole. And she's like, that's exactly what happened. I'm sorry that I didn't say anything, but I just didn't want to do it anymore. So I just cut you off.
Yeah.
And what a powerful, our relationship has never been the same, but I feel at peace now.
Right.
That there was that courageous conversation. You want to talk a little bit about courageous conversation?
Yeah. Had many of them in my life, but I used to avoid them like the plague.
Me too, girl. People pleaser all the way. Just
Up
any
into,
kind of
oh yeah. Again,
or distract, avoid.
Avoidance was like my biggest protector. Like, I'm just not going to go there. It's uncomfortable. I don't like confrontation. We're not doing this. Because again, it was learned in childhood. We don't talk about things. We don't talk about our feelings. We don't address conflict. We don't talk about these issues. Yes. So I learned to avoid, early on. But when the universe was so adamant about me not being able to avoid anymore, because, as we learn lessons, they will continue to come back and back and back until we actually integrate them, and we will get the same lesson. The universe loves to do that. And so I was getting the same lesson back over and over. And it was, speak up to authoritative figures, speak up to people that are leaders or that are in positions of authority. And it started first at my old job as a teacher in Columbia, where I was emotionally and verbally abused by my boss. And here it was again. And it was like this big lesson of this person that's in authority, that's in a leadership role or whatever. And I was shrinking and making myself small and avoiding and retracting. And I was at a point where I was starting to grow and learn and do the work. And that way was no longer going to work. That avoidance was no longer going to work. And I had a decision. And, the first courageous conversation I ever had was with the director of the school, of a person in authority, right? But that was really, really scary to me. And I won't lie to you, I was shaking and my voice was quivering the whole time. And it was so nerve-wracking to me because it was uncomfortable, because I had never really done it before. And I was allowing myself to be in my expression and be bigger and not shrink into being so small and dimming my light. And that was uncomfortable. But I can say since then, that was about 4 or 5 years ago. And since then, they get easier. They do. Yes. And your voice doesn't quiver anymore. And you find your ground, and you maybe don't avoid it for as long as like that one was avoided for a whole school year.
Yeah.
And it's but then the time shortens, because you're it gets to you more, and you realize you do have that power within you. You do have the tools that you need. You do have a voice that matters. You do have expression that matters. And that time decreases until finally you get to the point where you're okay, this is off. This needs to have a courageous conversation. I'm messaging that person. Let me know when you're available for a chat. If they're not here in person, or if they are, let me know when you want to meet up. I want to talk to you about something. Right.
Yeah.
But it's a progression, and it's a journey, and it is something that's just practice. It does make it easier, and you do find more confidence in your voice, and you do build that trust and safety within yourself to express yourself, and that your needs matter. You cultivate within you that worthiness, that your needs matter, your voice matters, what you have to say matters, your feelings matter.
That's so beautiful. Practicing so that your body trusts that you're actually going to show up for it. You're going to show up for yourself. And I think this is an important part too, that when you go into courageous conversations, surrendering to the outcome is a really big part of it. Like I said, in the friendship thing, It's like,
not taking on the other person's response.
yes. Or the expectation of, okay, I'm going to do this. This is like a very ego. I'm like posing for the ego, right? I'm going to do the really big, courageous thing, go me, so that I can have XYZ. Again, it's
Oh, that's a great
not
point.
choosing the outcome, is actually choosing it so that you can feel what you need to feel inside of you, the calm after the storm, the trust back in the piggy bank, the trust bank, right?
Yeah.
And really telling your body, reminding your body that I'm going to go do this thing that I know that I need to show up for. And regardless of the outcome, either way, it serves me. Because if it doesn't go the way that feels so great, now we've expanded our capacity to survive discomfort, right? Because I think a lot of times we don't go into courageous conversations. I know that I have had people in my life where I'm scared to have that courageous conversation because they're very reactive, explosive. My body starts to just quiver and tingle and scared and all the things, right?
Yeah.
And every conversation isn't going to be that, oh, thanks for telling me.
Right.
Let's hold
100%.
hands
Oh,
again and
yeah.
hug and move along. No, I mean, you might lose your job.
Yeah.
You might lose the friendship. You may go through loss,
Yep.
period.
Totally. Yeah. And I
And
have.
that is
Yeah.
necessary for our growth and evolution as humans. That is just, if not even more important, just as important as the other side of, wow, see, I did the thing and it worked out. It actually, wow, this is
And
amazing.
it's,
Again.
yeah, we get shown where we get to go from there. Because as you said, no matter how the person responds, it's not our responsibility, but we can take action from there knowing, okay, this is a relationship that I'm going to move forward with because this person is still evolving and growing with me. Or this is, maybe you get the, you know, a complete reaction that just shows you this is not someone I'm going to grow and evolve with. And that teaches you a beautiful lesson, because I've had the friendship breakups as well over the past few years where, you know, we had the conversation and it, the nastiness of what was projected onto me showed me just like the capacity and where they were at, and just something I wasn't willing to allow myself to receive into my life anymore. And it showed me that next step. And I had clarity around, okay, this is a friendship that is time to end, at least for now,
Right.
you know, with where we're both at. And who knows if that would ever come back. I don't think so, but you know, for now, that is the decision that for my health, for my well-being, for my emotional sovereignty and health, like this is, you know, we're given those information. We never have the conversation. We avoid the thing. We're going to keep getting the lesson, if not from the same person, probably from the same person, but in other directions as well. It's going to come from us like every which way, because the universe is trying to show us this is a part of this that gets to evolve and grow. And yes, of course, I've had the conversations where people are very reactive and projecting onto me and blaming, and the end of the day, I get to disconnect those cords and remember that their response is not my responsibility.
Yeah. Ooh, that's beautiful.
That it was my responsibility to communicate how I'm feeling, and then I get to decide how the relationship gets to move forward from that. And I've also had people in my life that have remained in my life that have actually made growth through those conversations together, like my mother. Like, the first courageous conversation I had with her was very much like blame and pointing fingers and defensiveness and all of her protectors popping up back to me. But we've made progress in that. I don't get as much of that anymore. Now she's able to listen or respond a little bit more, or, you know, at least not react in that way. So we give people, others, an opportunity to grow in those conversations as well, if they're ready for it in their own way or not. And we get a decision to make. Is this a relationship I move forward with?
Yeah. That's so important. That's so important. Something dropped in when you said these repeat lessons. When we can notice these patterns and these repeat lessons dropping in over and over, the thing that popped in was I heard a voice say, "Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me again?" And I don't know why, but I'm supposed to share that with everybody because I think if
Yeah.
you're hearing the voice,
Yep.
why is this happening to me again? Why is this person breaking up with me again? Why are my friends abandoning me again? Why is
Why am I in this toxic relationship again?
Yes, if you're
Whatever.
seeing the
Yeah.
repeat patterns, it's time to look inward.
There is a
It
lesson.
is a
Yeah.
1000% not time to go, see, once again, I attracted the wrong person.
Once again, all men suck. Once
Yes, yes,
again,
yes,
all people suck, right? We make generalizations,
yes.
right? Because it's easier. But
Once
that
again,
voice,
a boss that just doesn't get me.
right?
Well, what is it inside of you that your soul is craving nourishment for, or wants you to take responsibility for, or wants you to do differently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So good. Because I used to get that voice all the time.
Oh, me too. Why is this
All
happening
the
to me?
time.
Why is this happening to me?
Again? Why is this happening to you again?
Again.
Totally. Yeah.
Again. Yeah.
But now I can look at it through a different lens, through my healing journey. Now I can go, okay, this thing is happening for me, and there's a lesson here, and I'm able to. But that's been an evolution as well. That's a whole other thing, but getting to that place where you can see the lesson and go, okay, this isn't so scary. This is for my growth, and this is ultimately for my happiness. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to come back to that word. When I can grow through the thing, there's sustained joy and happiness there because there's me becoming more of me. There's less masks, there's less protectors, there's less pleasing, whatever, perfectionism, whatever the thing is that was walling me off in relationships from true connection, not through wounding, but through empowerment, through celebration, and through truly seeing and hearing one another. And when that authenticity comes through and we work through those things, we feel joy because there's nothing hidden. We feel freedom.
Oh, I think authenticity and freedom, I mean, that's why we do the work, right? That's why we put in the time and the energy and understanding and uncovering more about ourselves, because it does bring us to these spaces where we enjoy our life, right? Where we enjoy our life. So I'm going to end it on a question around this that just popped in. What are you enjoying most about your life right now?
I'm pregnant. I'm 32 weeks on Wednesday. And I would say right now, I'm enjoying most of my pregnancy journey. I'm loving it. It's been a beautiful journey. It's brought my husband and I even closer together. Our relationship's just grown, and I'll get emotional, but like I'm starting to see the type of father he's going to be with our son, and I'm having my transition already happening now into motherhood. And right now it's just feeling my baby's movements in my belly. It's just bringing me a lot of joy. I know it's kind of an external thing, right? But I don't think I would be able to feel the extent of love and happiness and connection that I have with this life inside of me, again, if I hadn't gone to the depths of what the shadow work and the healing and the trauma resolution work that I've done in my life.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And it's kind of funny because it right now it is still inside of you.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. He is.
He is. Oh, well, I can't wait to see all of the continued just fullness that you get to experience as a mama and a human and all the things. And it really is, it's still the relationship with you, even though it's a relationship with the baby and it's a relationship with your husband. At the end of the day, it just shows and shines because you love you. You trust you, you got you, and then you get to layer external things on top of your internal satisfaction and contentment and peace and joy and all the things. And that's why it feels so dang good.
Totally. And it's been about me being able to express authentically how I'm truly feeling with my pregnancy, not needing it to be a different way to fit in with somebody else's pregnancy, or not hiding it because somebody else is uncomfortable with it, because there's been that too.
Yes.
Right? But being able to be in my excitement and joy about my pregnancy, being able to be authentic with what it's been, has brought the freedom to me to experience true joy with it.
Oh, I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. You're such a beautiful soul. We could talk about a million other things. I have a million more questions. Yeah. And you guys who are tuning in today, if you want to get more of Brielle in your life, there will be all the info in the show notes, but quick, spit it out. Where can they find you so they can hear it in their earbuds?
Totally. You can find me on Instagram at Brielle Brasil. Brasil has an S. And we'll put my website, some other links down below as well. So
for sure.
To hang out, love to connect.
If you guys have any questions for Brielle Brasil, if you have any questions, hit her up on her Instagram, send her a DM, put some comments below. If you wanted to jump back on and answer more questions, or if you want us to journey down a different direction on other topics, let us know, because I'd love to have you back sometime.
I would love to.
Maybe even post baby, we'll see. Bring the baby on the show and talk mama style. That'd be so fun. All right, my love. Thanks so much for coming today. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
And everybody else, go out into the world, shine your light bright, and live a limitless life. See you soon.